So hopefully everybody can see that. And just so everyone knows, we are recording this session, so that will be shared later. So if anyone wants to watch it back or share the link, that will be available to everyone through the 1HS Finance website. So I'm Gavin Rush, I'm the head of costing at the Christie. And today we're going to take you through the programme of how we've celebrated diversity at the Christie. So our EDI objectives for 2023, what we've done to meet them and support them, with a particular focus on our EDI Action Week, which we were very proud of. So I'll just pass over to Sharon to introduce herself and then we'll get started.
Hello everyone, I'm Sharon Hassel. I'm the Assistant Director of Finance for Financial Services at the Christie and work with Gavin. Both me and Gavin worked quite hard on that EDI Action Week, which we'll tell you about in the slides. So I'll pass you back to Gavin.
Thanks, Sharon. So as I said, we're going to go through our the aims and objectives of our department's EDI action plan. We'll take a deeper dive into our EDI Action Week, and then we'll have a look at some of the feedback we got, both quantitative and qualitative feedback around the Action Week and the programme in general. So to start with, as a bit of background, last year the Trust launched a new programme in working towards equality, in diversity and inclusion, in which there would be a coordinator for every department, maybe one or two for bigger departments, and a new number of EDI champions. So the idea would be that the EDI coordinator monitors the objectives, feeds back on them, and they network to support each other, with the champions supporting the coordinators and being more visible around the department. So I am our department's EDI coordinator, and we have 3 or 4 champions. The number varies depending on workload and what people can commit to at any one time, but we have them from most of the main areas within our team. So as coordinators and as a trust, we were asked to set objectives, objectives around 3 main aims. So improving workforce and data, policies and decision making, and mainstreaming EDI. So we're going to take you through each of those overarching areas, the objectives we set and how we've supported delivery of them. So the first objective we set for workforce data and information was around reviewing and understanding our current workforce demographics. So we did a piece of work where we got the information off ESR, and we did a benchmarking exercise between the trust rates and then we looked at the national census, so we could bring in what Greater Manchester was, what the Northwest was, and what those rates were nationally. So we could compare our demographics and the mix on particular demographics within our team to what our local population looks like and what that compares to nationally or regionally, to see if there were any areas we were particularly underrepresented, or if there are any areas for particular development that we wanted to focus on. The next steps, which we've started now, is reviewing that data. We now have an interactive portal where we can get the data monthly, and we'll be monitoring that on an annual basis. We're just starting the monitoring for this year, and we can already see some positive movement between the last time we did this exercise and the current year, in terms of people identifying and seeing more representation across the team. The second action was around improving that data, so not just looking at numbers of staff, but looking at qualitative data, what people felt, how they what their opinions were. So with EDI, we found quite often we're looking at the minorities, so it's that one standalone piece of feedback that's actually important, because they might be the only person who feels represented in this group, or the only subgroup of an overarching protected characteristic, and that may feel disadvantaged. So we're really trying to drill down and look at why people feel the way they do and how we can help improve their experience, and generally just bring their authentic self to the workplace. So try not just looking at numbers and benchmarks and having we want to move away from having a threshold, but looking at what's representative and what can we do within a team to support individuals. So for example, we know our senior finance team is consisted of 6 people, so there is absolutely no way we could have representation from all 9 protected characteristics and social demographics and other areas within 6 people. So it's what can we do as a team and what's realistic and represent what's representation look like for us and how that improves someone's experience. So this slide just shows some of the ways in which we presented this data back. I think another very important part of our program in terms of how we got engagement is that we've always closed that feedback loop. So we've asked for opinions from people and then we fed back on them. We've set these objectives and then we've asked people what they think of them before they're set in stone, before they're submitted as the final objectives, give people the opportunity to review and feedback and give their input into them. So we found that feedback loop and showing people what we're using the data for as a very powerful tool to encourage people to engage and really get buy-in to the program. And it's not just being asked for the sake of it and not just being reported somewhere and never seen again. It's an active part of what we're doing on our monthly meetings. So you can see the first 2 tables on the left show BAME, so ethnic origins and disability. So we benchmark here between our finance team, the trust and the region. So as a finance team, we look better than the trust average, but the Greater Manchester ICB has a greater proportion of ethnic minority backgrounds than nationally all the rest of the Northwest. And we are behind that. So even though we're better than the trust, we're still not representative of the population that we serve. So this is a particular area we highlighted for improvement. And it's the same with disabilities. We're actually really lowly represented on anyone with a physical or neurodiverse nature. I'm happy to say that has improved and we now look much better. And we'll come to that in the feedback, but I know I've personally had feedback from people after some of the events we've run around their disability or their neurodiversity, which was prior to this was never captured, and potentially I'm not sure how comfortable they felt sharing that. But I certainly have had conversations on the back of this that people expressing their own personal experience and how doing these sessions has encouraged them to talk about it more, or that not feel as alone, that they're the only one that feels this way. Or even from my own personal experience as someone who's dyslexic, that you feel a certain way and you think it's because you're struggling and you're just finding it difficult, whereas actually it's potentially part of your dyslexia, part of your neurodiversity, that you're approaching things in a different way. And it's actually helped me understand my neurodiversity better as part of this program. We've also brought in information from the staff survey. So we had really positive reviews overall in the staff survey, but we specifically looked at some of the EDI elements. And on the back of that, we raised sort of this flowchart of how to escalate issues or how to raise issues. And this isn't a flowchart in terms of you talk to your line manager. If that doesn't work, you go to the EDI coordinator. This is our preferred route of how someone would escalate an issue or a problem, but they can jump in at any point. So they don't feel comfortable going to their line manager, or if the issue's about their line manager, they could raise it anonymously through the suggestion box, or they could go straight to the Freedom to Speak Up person in the trust or to the EDI team and get a third party involved to do that anonymously. So we were really passionate about supporting this, that we want feedback, we want people to speak up, but we want them to do it in a way that they're comfortable with and that they feel they won't be unnecessarily penalised for. So as part of this, we introduced an anonymous suggestion box for EDI, but a range of anything else people want to raise suggestions for. And here we linked in sort of the EDI team and the Freedom to Speak Up team. As was the second bit we did as part of a trust analysis was respecting the workplace questionnaire. And again, nothing massively surprising, but in terms of diversity and respect and opportunities. It kind of came up similar to what we were expecting from the ESR analysis and the staff survey. So it supported the areas we'd already identified that we wanted to work on and improve. So I will hand over to Sharon to talk about our governance and decision making.
Thank you, Gavin. So this slide looks at the governance policies and decision making, and you can see on here there's two circles that say we're developing and we're achieving. So we've reviewed local processes and policies to ensure that we're fair and equitable. And this looks at our communications, our recruitment process, to make sure that we're conforming with the trust policies and those processes. So this is developing at the moment. So we're looking at the welcome pack and the interview process, and where possible that we do have a diverse interview panel, and to ensure that we are fair in that recruitment process. And we're looking at improving the process as well by training any staff who will be involved in that element, to just give them better skills, and to make sure that they do consider EDI as part of that interview process. And I know we do always include questions relating to EDI. And then the next item, you can see that we recognise that we're achieving this. So this is ensuring that we've got EDI representation on all key working groups and meetings. So in finance, this is on the senior finance team's radar. So we've got representation there. We've got objectives as senior finance team members to roll that out across the department. And we're also giving consideration of that to future working groups. So for myself, my objective was to lead on the EDI Action Week, which I was really pleased to be able to do that and the difference that it did make. So if we move on to the next slide. And this is talking about the EDI Action Week, which we're very proud of. You'll pick up on that as we talk through these slides. So this is mainstreaming equality, diversity and inclusion. So it's making it that it is just what we deal with all the time. So again, you can see that we've got achieving against these two sections on this slide. So we had an EDI Action Week last year in July, and we're planning another one. Gavin's already started working on that. He's got lots of ideas of different things that we can include in that. But we promoted all the different elements on each of the days, so a very wide range of subjects that we talked about, and we made it a mixture of informal and formal sessions, so people could attend the session. It was all remote, so individuals could attend the sessions easily because we do work from home the majority of the time. And then we also asked for feedback so we could understand the learnings from it and then what we need to take forward. So we're promoting awareness and programs. So we have a weekly email update that's sent out to the team, and that alternate weeks we cover either health and wellbeing or EDI. So there's always regular a section on EDI covering, like now we've got the Pride month in February, so whatever's on the radar. So we might cover Eid or other different celebrations. We've got champions. So Gavin's one of our champion. I'm not sure whether he's the champion or the coordinator, but he's a lead on it. And we've got another lady from our team on the call today who's also involved in EDI. And then we've got external groups. So coming along, talking to you guys today, sharing with you our ideas, and hopefully maybe taking away some ideas that you might share back with us. And then we like to celebrate our success. So we was very proud to be shortlisted for the HFMA award this year. We didn't win it, but we got highly commended. So we give ourselves a big pat on the back and celebrated that. And we also put a nomination in for our local awards at the Trust, the Christie Colleague Award. Again, we didn't win that, but it was good to put the nomination in and show the team, you know, how serious we do take this and how much we do want to promote it. So I'm going to pass across to Gavin now onto the next slide.
Thanks, Sharon. So now we're just going to take you through our EDI Action Week and look at what we did. So as a bit of an overview, each day we sent out an update. So we'll show you the updates for each day, which include what session we had on that day, some general information, and links for people who were either particularly interested or that couldn't make that particular session, so that everyone could be involved. We also sent out a sign language of the day, so a word in sign each day that would go out and people would be able to see. And we're looking at doing something similar again and expanding that. Our sessions we had a couple of informal sessions which were very well attended. I wasn't expecting them to be attended as well as they were, and our formal sessions, which the majority of the team came along to. So I think of a team of 75, we had about 40 to 50 people on each session. So most people attended something during that week, and most people attended multiple sessions actually. We also had Slido running throughout the week, so this wasn't used very well, but it was an option that if people didn't feel comfortable to raise a question or an issue, or couldn't attend the meeting, they had the option to do it anonymously through Slido, that they could ask a question or raise a question in advance or raise an issue or give some general feedback. So it wasn't used, but it was available to the team. It was there that they could feedback and they could use that if they wanted to. So the Monday featured it was our launch event. So for anyone who's not familiar, we ran the doll video, which is this one here. So I won't run it now, but it's children faced with a black doll and a white doll, and they're asked certain questions about it. So the first few are very innocuous, and then they go on to which doll's good, which one's bad, and then which you identified with. And most of the children picked the black doll as the naughty doll, and all the children who weren't white identified more with that, and they started asking questions. So it really demonstrates how even at a very young age there's this unconscious bias and this level of discrimination that still exists, and it's even in children. So it's not something people, well, it probably is learned, but it just expresses the issues around it, that this is still an issue. It hasn't gone away. It may be better for certain groups, it may be worse, but it's still there and it still exists. So that's something we really wanted to not promote, but something we really wanted to make clear, that this has a valid place in the workplace, and this is the reason why we're conducting weeks like this. We also linked into a couple of the staff networks, directed people to NHS Finance. We had our informal language corner, so we had half an hour where we broke off into breakout rooms, and we each tried to teach each other a couple of words we knew from different languages. So we had there's a Greek lady in the team who was trying to teach us some very complex phrases which I can't remember in Greek. I've also shared I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce it, but the town in Wales with the longest name. I know it's Go Go Gawk, but that's about the only bit I can pronounce. So try to get people to say that out loud on the team meeting, which was entertaining to watch people stumble over some of the funny letters we have in Wales. So passing on to Sharon for Tuesday.
So yeah, we was trying to make it quite fun and interactive. So yeah, the Welsh the Welsh name was quite interactive. I'm not quite sure if it was fun, and I couldn't pronounce it either. But moving on to the Tuesday, so we had our first formal session on this day, and we'd reached out to Jack Fellows. So I'd seen Jack presenting on one of the inclusion webinars that I'd attended earlier last year. So we reached out to Jack because I was really impressed with the presentation that they'd done. And they came along and did a presentation on trans myth busting, which was really, really interesting. And I took quite a lot away from that. I felt very conscious that I might talk to the person and use the wrong pronouns. But Jack just, completely put us at ease. Don't worry about it. People know that you're not doing something intentional. It's about understanding and understanding differences in different people. And Jack gave a really good background on trans, that it's not the new in thing. That might be some people's perception. They described the history behind it and what's happened previously and how it's understood now as well. So that was a really good session, and I'm sure I've seen that Jack's presenting on some future events as well. So if you do ever get the opportunity to see what Jack's got to say, it is worth attending. Then food's always a good thing to talk about. So we focused on different foods because we know that people like eating a wide range, to see what individuals' favourites were. Mine's pizza and pasta. I'm not quite sure whether it can be included, but New York cheesecake is something I'm actually focusing on as well, because that's my next holiday. So we just made it fun, interactive, and a half-hour session. We got lots of interaction on that as well on the Tuesday. And now we also encourage everybody in the team to use the pronouns on their email signatures as well. So do you want to move on to Wednesday, Gavin, and tell us what we did then?
Yeah, sure. And I suppose just to add around the food, well, obviously we're attempting to redo this week this year, and we're going to try and have a face-to-face half day. So I'm strongly hoping that the Foods from Around the World features at the start of that, with people bringing some samples in for us to try when we're organising that one, Sharon.
I'm sure they will do.
So the Wednesday we had I'm going to pronounce her name wrong, so I apologize in advance. But we had Sharifa presenting on Eid and what it meant to her. So she actually used her son's presentation from his school, and it was really good and really informative. We actually had some really positive feedback from Sharifa, that she was so pleased to be asked to come along and speak about her religion and share her experience, that I don't think she was expecting a team to be interested or engaged or want to learn. So it was good for us to learn, but it was also really good to see how engaged she was to share that learning and knowledge. And she was very open to answering questions at the end, and we had a lot of discussion. I think one of the questions was around Christmas and how she felt towards Christmas and celebration of that, compared to other her Eid and Ramadan. So it was very interesting. We also used the opportunity to share some stories around articles from other careers, and more generally what BAME is and what BAME means. We also shared some other viewpoints around religion, so respect in the workplace, and also from a perspective of, if you don't believe in a particular religion, or if you don't believe in a religion at all, that still isn't the grounds to be discriminated against. So it goes both ways around, if you're particularly religious or if you're not religious at all, you still have to respect each other in the same way. So we really want to highlight and balance that as well for anyone who may have thought that it was getting a bit preachy. We wanted to balance it out a little bit. Conscious it's a bit risky with religion, that you can offend people maybe a bit easier than some of the other areas. So again, that was a really positive day. We got a lot of feedback from. So now moving on to the Thursday.
So we had another formal session on the Thursday, and we had Wes Baker come along and talk to us. Again, I'd seen Wes when I'd attended a previous inclusion webinar. So Wes talked to us about neurodiversity and the different elements of that. He talks about what he recognises as his superpower. Wes has got dyslexia and autism, I think is what he described as his neurodiverse superpowers, and how he uses those. He says that he's very, very analytical. So in his job that he's now got as director of strategy, he's able to analyse lots of data a lot quicker, because of the way that he says his brain works. It works a bit differently. It might take me longer. I might be more of a word person. And he gave lots and lots of tips. He talked about the different tools that are available, different softwares that you can use to help you with the dyslexia. He recognised that some of his mannerisms, they might be a bit more abrupt than what you would expect. So then it's about him being conscious of that and how he deals with that when he's interacting with individuals. So it was a really good session, that, and took quite a lot away from that. And I think the team really enjoyed it. And it made you think about the different people that you do interact with and how they'll have different skills. Because we're not all the same, we're all different, and how you can work with each other with those different skills as well. So we did, down at the bottom, it's got there, embrace, celebrate neurodiversity, and that's certainly what we did in that session, took quite a lot away from that. And we moved on to our final day on Friday.
Yeah, so the Friday we focused on the One NHS Finance programme. So we had a session going through the Inclusion and Diversity Ambassador Network and looking at some of the other special interest networks available for the team. So the Rainbow Network, the Disability Network, and Women in Leadership. We also talked a little bit about the development programme, so the Breaking Diversity Barriers, Career Progressors programmes, and other things like that. So we did that on the session as a internal finance team, but then we also had Alice from Warrington come along, who is our sponsorship lead for the Northwest. So she talked a little bit about the sponsee network and what she's got out of being a sponsee and a sponsor to people. So again, that was sort of aimed at trying to encourage people to get involved and take the next step. So a bit more forward looking around what people can do or what support's out there for people to get involved with. We also finished the day with an EDI quiz. So depending on time and questions at the end, we might be going through a few of those quiz questions for anyone who wants to stay on at the end of the presentation. But that was really it for the week, and that was our close. And we had some really positive feedback that Sharon is going to take us through now.
Thanks. Just picking up on what Gavin was talking about, what we did on the Friday, the Women in Leadership, I attend those sessions and I really enjoy those and have taken quite a lot away from them. So if you do get the opportunity to join any of those sessions, I would definitely recommend booking on one of those. Right, so at the end of the week, we did a Survey Monkey and got everybody's feedback. And as you can see, all very, very positive. So the big green section there over on the left of how useful everybody found it. And the content, feedback there, it was about right. So, and it did feel like that as we was going through the week and people were just talking to us in general, it did really feel like we had got the right mixture, which you can see again on in the middle there, the feedback that we got on each session, all very, very positive, with an overall score of 4.7 for all the presenters. And then the word cloud, I always like the word clouds, and you can see the big words jumping out there, that it was informative, it was positive, it was brilliant, the presentations really inclusive. So all really, really good positive comments that we got back on there. And then, are there any protective characteristics you would like to learn more about? And again, we've got a good mixture down there, with a strong, the leading one being the neurodiversity and the disability. So I suppose it's what people connect with, but a broad range there that we're now looking at for the next EDI week that we've taken away from what we learned from last year. And then on the next slide, and I really like this slide, when I was looking at it yesterday, when I was getting ready for today and reading the comments, it just reminded me of all the really positive things that everybody said to us. And And we had an away day just before Christmas, and I was in a little breakout group, and we was looking at, we was talking about what we'd done good this year that made a difference. And one of the ladies said to me, said, the EDI week, it was brilliant. So even then in December, however many months after the summer, people were still talking about it. But these comments on here, you know, they're really quite personal, some of them. The first one in the blue square, this individual actually messaged me themselves personally to say how grateful they were for the EDI week. And you know, I didn't know that they had epilepsy and that they felt like how they were feeling and what they commented here in that speech bubble. So I felt quite privileged that they came and told me this and that it had made a difference. So I think these are really powerful comments and quite personal and quite emotional really as well, because this is what it's about, isn't it? It's about making people feel that they are valued and that they are included and that they are listened to as well. So I was really, you know, really proud of these comments coming through, and it did make it that we felt like we'd done something really good and that everybody was now involved and we're all thinking about EDI as well. So I think that was it on the feedback, and I think we might be back to you, Gavin, to finish.
Yes, so that's the end of our formal session. So at this point, we'd just like to open it up for any questions or any comments or feedback.
So I'm just having a look in the chat here. So we've got daily updates on activities communications for the week. How do you go about this, and what was your approach to involving the staff and the comms team? Do you want to pick up that, Gavin?
Yeah, so the slides that we went through then, they were sent out on they were sent out on a daily basis as a PDF. So each one of them went out each day, and then at the end of the week they were collated together as a pack for everyone. We saved the sessions that were we recorded the sessions and saved them so people could rewatch them at a later date. So I know at least one person who was on leave chose to come back in and watch them when they returned to work. So it was available to get people involved even if they couldn't attend the actual meeting. Last year we ran it just as a finance team, so we didn't get the wider comms involved as an organisation. What we're planning to do this year is predominantly run it for the finance team, but make certain sessions available either throughout the wider trust or to the network, to the Northwest or the national network through One NHS Finance or skills development. The other thing we did is that we created some email badges and backgrounds that were promoting the week. So on one of those slides where we were talking about on our objectives around the week, you can see the screenshot at the bottom. And actually, if you notice, everyone on that screenshot all had an EDI week background. I think there were about 2 or 3 that they could choose from. So where in that week and in the run up to that week, we did have those backgrounds on so people could see what it was. It was attached to email signatures, and obviously for the finance team, it was in everyone's calendars as well. We sent them in to everyone. So I hope that answers that question.
They say on the back of that with the backgrounds. So when you went on a call with individuals external to finance, we were like, oh, what's that? That's an interesting background. So it did get us talking a little bit about it outside of finance. I can see a hand's gone up. Is it Madupe? Madupe.
Yeah,
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's just like I see myself in what you've done. Is really good. Thank you very much. I can't say more than that, really, because I've jotted a lot of things that, oh, we can replicate this, we can replicate it while reinventing the wheel. So I don't know if you are happy for, a catch up outside this meeting so that, materials can be replicated, in other trusts, if that is possible. And in terms of the comms one that I just asked, so is it that when you do the PDF every day, was that sent by you to all the finance team?
Yes. So But well, to both of them, yes, we're happy to be contacted outside of this and sort of meet with people individually if you want to share anything. There is a blog on the One NHS Finance website, so I'll ask Aoife to share the slides and share the link to that. So there's a bit more resource on there, but happy to be contacted individually, and I'm sure Sharon is, so we can have our email addresses shared as well. And yes, when we sent it out daily, it was me sending them out to the finance team each day. So that was the approach we took at the time. I think going forward, we are looking at how we use Teams channels. I'm not convinced that it might be an easier way. I'm not convinced it might be an easy way for people to ignore it as well. So we're looking how we use Teams as a department. We're probably a bit late to that one. And we have a regular weekly update. So it was on the weekly update for a while, so promoting it as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm very happy to catch up outside the meeting, please. Thank you.
I think we was quite mindful as well on the week that we chose. We tried to choose a week where we knew people wouldn't have other competing deadlines. So the third week of the month is generally, I don't know if it is quieter, maybe a little bit quieter. We've got month end done and the NHSE returns submitted. So I think that helped as well, that we chose that particular week where it wasn't clashing with anything else that people might consider to be more important. So we made it that was important that week.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. I'm really grateful. So how do I get your email, please?
I'll ask Aoife to send it out with the
Thank you.
slides and the links. So if I think it'll be fine to circulate with that. Alternate, I think we're both sort of mine's just gavin.rush@nhs.net, and I think yours is
Sharon.Hassel at nhs.net. Yes.
Yeah. So any other questions? Is there anything else in the chat? Sorry, Sharon.
I don't think so. I think that was it. We're all in eager anticipation of the quiz. The quiz is, oh, we've got a hand go up there. So we've got Matthew. Have you got a question for us, Matthew?
Yeah, just a quick one. Well, feedback, first of all, I think it's an amazing week that you guys held, and it looks like something that, I'm certainly interested in replicating at Tameside. So yeah, we'll definitely take some of the ideas away and have a look at those. I just wanted to ask a question on, outside of this week, how do you ensure that as a department, ED&I is sort of remains in people's foresight and way of thinking and way that they sort of operate and conduct themselves. So it's not just like, yeah, it's great to do that as a week, but how do we make sure it's ongoing?
Okay. If I start and then I'll pass over to Gavin.
Yeah.
So we do have EDI as an agenda item on our senior finance, well, our extended senior finance team meeting. So that's talked about monthly. It'll appear on our finance team brief as well. So, and then the other, which I'll probably let Gavin pick up on, is about the weekly email that we do send out each week. So if I pass across to you, Gavin.
Yeah, so like you say, it's on senior team meetings, so we're trying to talk about it that way with not just the senior team, but sort of anyone's 8A and above is included on that meeting, so it's a bit of a wider audience. And we have a weekly email update, so EDI is featured every other week. We share the EDI calendar and any other events that are going on around the trust or locally as part of that. So we're getting regular communications out at least once every other week around EDI. Obviously, you can see from my background and Sharon's, we've got Pride themed backgrounds in relation to Pride Month, and we've done the same for Black History Month and other events during the year. Remembrance Day, and I think there's a few, World Mental Health Day. So we're trying to highlight specific events as they come up. Even though we've done the week, we've had a couple of health and wellbeing days throughout the year or afternoons where we've done a couple of sessions. We may have 2 or 3 sessions during the day and maybe 1 or 2 informal sessions. So it's keeping things like that ongoing. And there's a bit of overlap between the EDI and the health and wellbeing. So we've covered physical disabilities, mental health, and things like that during it. I suppose more formally, we have our EDI committee as well that meets monthly, and we're working on different things to try and improve it. So that's probably the policies and the governance, probably the slowest moving bit of all this. And we're really trying to tackle it from interview forward. And the interview process is massive for anyone that's looked at it. We're not going to solve all that in 1 year. So we're trying to pick specific bits that we want to improve and then move on and look at the next part that way. So we do get a lot of involvement. We do try and feedback and involve people whenever we can. And we try and spotlight key issues or things that are up. So obviously this month we'll be spotlighting the Pride History Month and the events from 1IHS Finance and linking in with our internal network to do the same. And we're encouraging people to join those networks and engage on their own as well. So it's not a formal structured event all the time.
I think just picking up on what Gavin has said there with the interviews, where we can, we're trying to change things ourselves internally in finance. So we do share interview questions because that was something that we recognised and what Wes taught to us about for neurodiverse individuals, that's helpful. We don't let them have all the questions, and it's done fairly. So if we'll share certain questions with the individuals ahead of the interview, just to give them that bit of support coming along to the interview as well. Yeah, is that okay for you, Matthew?
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for that.
Yeah, good. I don't think I can see any more hands or anything else in the chat. So I think we've answered the questions there. So Gavin he did a really good quiz on the week at the end of the week. So are we going to have a look at doing the quiz?
Yeah, I'll put the quiz up now. So I'll share my screen and Aoife's going to pull it up in poll so that we can all interact. So if anyone doesn't want to stay for the quiz, now's the time to drop off. But otherwise, I'm hoping most people will stay and get involved. So I'll just share my screen.
I say it's Who Wants to Be a Millionaire themed, but we haven't got £1 million to give away at the end.
So this was the quiz we ran at the end of our EDI week. So we'll get started with question 1. So during Ramadan, what country has the longest day of fasting? So hopefully you should be able to see the questions and the poll, the question and the answers on through the polls. Once you submit, I think you should be able to see what other people are answering. Got 13 out of 16. I don't see any more coming through. So the answer was Finland. So obviously fasting gets based on sunlight hours. So the days with longest sunlight hours have the longest days of fasting compared to others. So which of these is not the superpower of dyslexia? So as Wes Baker put it, there are numerous advantages of being dyslexic. So which of these isn't? I think we've got 13 people there. And it's sense of direction. Yes, so dyslexics tend to struggle with direction. I think left and right can be particularly difficult. And I certainly know myself, without Google Maps, I would be hopeless. Wouldn't be going to any external face-to-face conferences without Google Maps, because I'm already lost enough with that coming out of a train station. So definitely not an advantage of being dyslexic. how many women are in director of finance roles across the NHS? So this was based on the HFMA information from last year. If anyone wants to take a guess. So I think that's everyone. And it's 34% of directors of finance are women. So that's obviously based against a pretty much 50-50 split of the population, just to highlight that gap. So this is from our learning lunch. And what does the Greek word kalimera mean? Does anybody know? So this was from Language Corner, sorry, not the learning lunch. Everyone. So it means, it's Greek for good morning. So another one related to our Eve session. So what pillar of Islam relates to Ramadan? That's everyone. So it was around fasting, the pillar for fasting that relates to Ramadan. Next question. So what percentage of the UK is dyslexic? Does anyone know? Okay, so yeah, everyone's done. And it is around 10% of the population is dyslexic. So this is varying ranges. So 4% are thought to be severely dyslexic, but they think the true number of dyslexia might be more like 15. But because they're milder forms, they're not often diagnosed. So it's about 10% that is diagnosed with dyslexia, but for anyone that said 15%, it is thought to be closer to that, but undiagnosed milder forms. And what percentage of the UK identify as trans? Sorry, my fault, clicked the wrong one. So I'll give the answer away there to everyone. But yeah, it's 0.5% of the UK could identify as trans. So obviously quite a low number within an already low group there. And what is the regret rate from gender reaffirming surgery? So this is when someone's transitioned and decides they want to transition back. I think everyone's done there. And it's less than 5%. So just to give that some contrast, the regret rate for reconstructed breast surgery is 47%. Prostate surgery is 20%. Knee replacement is 10%. And gender confirming surgery, so the regret rate for people who transition is between 1% and 2%. So much lower than many other more popular surgeries that people go through. In the UK, what ethnic group is not considered BAME? So of these groups, which one is not considered under that BAME category? I think that's everyone. And actually all of them are considered under BAME. So BAME includes all ethnic minorities, including white ethnic minorities. So anyone who is non-British, who is white but non-British, so non-British or Irish are classed within that BAME category, even though they're still white. So it's a common misconception, and I think with some of the groups and the focus of what BAME covers, it's often overlooked. And in relation to that, there are different issues that might affect people. So, for example, I was on a call this morning where someone was talking about a member of their team sitting exams, but English being their second language. So they would come under this BAME categorization from that perspective, that they're not, well, I'm making a presumption there that they're not British if their first language is in English, which is probably I shouldn't do, but it's ethnic groups like that, like people that aren't from Britain that might have other stigmas around them. And which of the following is not considered a protected characteristic? Okay, that looks like everyone. So it's hair colour. So the others are all considered under the guidance that lays out the 9 protected characteristics. The others are all mentioned, whereas hair colour isn't. Although having dyed my hair pretty much every colour in my youth, I do think there is some guidance on human rights that covers tattoos, piercings, hair colours. So I wouldn't advise anyone to discriminate on that basis, even though it isn't a protected characteristic. And that is it for our quiz. So I hope that was informative and useful. We do have a longer version that we used with the team on the day. I'm happy to share that if anyone would like to sort of run it with their own teams. But that was just an example of one of the more interactive elements that we did with the team and how it worked virtually. Obviously, that was done using polls. If you have a Slido account, you can use that. And I think if you've got a paid Slido account, even face-to-face, you can use it on your phones and do that. So that it's still an anonymous interactive forum. So I will share both that presentation and the previous one today, and I will make sure the link to our blog is sent round that has the full quiz on it as well. If there are no other questions, I will give everyone a couple of minutes back before you get onto your next meeting. Thank you for joining today.
Thank you, everyone.